I guess first question, Coach, just talk
Recording in progress.
about where how things went with Rocket yesterday in practice, and if there is any kind of timetable for Tolu at all when he may return.
Rocket played really well yesterday at the end of practice. He slipped. His shoe gave out on him, and he tweaked his hip a little bit. I think it definitely was frightening for him. And he said he felt better this morning. He's supposed to be in to see our trainer here, Seth, in a little bit. So hopefully he'll be able to go again today. We'll see. It's up in the air. Tolu is continuing to improve. There is no timetable I can give you right now.
We'll go to John Sokoloff next. John, go ahead.
What's going on, Ben? How concerning is this deal with Rock?
Well, I'll let you know in an hour. Don't know yet.
Andy, go ahead.
Hey, Ben, let's just assume here that Rocket can play. How does that, what does that kind of do for your depth in the backcourt? Because, Cam Carter's been playing real well. Shaquille's been playing well. Obviously, you got Iverson. But, just that depth, how encouraging is it to have a guy like
It's
Rocket?
great. I mean, I hope that he's okay. And obviously, to answer John's question, I'm very concerned about it. But until I know more, it's hard for me to comment on it. I texted him last night, asked how he was doing, and he didn't text me back. And then I got a text this morning that he had fallen asleep. So I think I texted him at 10 o'clock. Not normal for a college student to be asleep at 10, but what do I know? But in any event, I'm sure hoping he's okay because he's really, put in a lot of work to get back to where he's out there now and was playing great yesterday. And in terms of our depth, it just gives us another weapon that's experienced, that's played in big games, that's played in the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, and played last year, honestly, with a torn labrum most of the year. So was not at full strength. I'm sure hoping he's going to be okay, and just, was in prayer for him last night, laying there in bed, hoping and praying that this thing's going to be okay.
Theo, go ahead.
Sure, Coach. You're able to hold your opponent under 50 points in each of the first two games. How do you see the matchup against Detroit Mercy going tomorrow?
Well, they're a team that has one of the top 5 leading scorers in the country last year, back for this year, Mike Davis's son, Antoine, and he's an excellent point guard. Can really shoot it from 3, really close to 40% on the year last year, 5 assists per game. I think he had 13 games over 30 points, 3 of them over 40 in last year's abbreviated season. They have a couple guys that we're familiar with. One is Harvey, who transferred from Vanderbilt, who had 16 on us up there a year ago. He's a good player, started his career at Notre Dame. And then one of our own former players, Prince Aduro, who went to South Florida after being here for 2 years with us, and is a grad transfer now closer to home. He's from Toronto in Detroit, and he started for him in the last game at the 5 spot. They have the reigning 6th man of the year that returns in Matt Johnson. Excellent three-point shooter, 40% on the season last year. And then a kid who's another really good backcourt player, McAdoo, number 21, who played at both Eastern Michigan and 1 year at Bradley. He was a Detroit native. Really is a good shooter and a good scorer. They had a kid that averaged 53% from 3 last year on the season, Noah Waterman, who's a 6'10", stretch big that can really shoot it, obviously. And he got a concussion in their first game of the season at Wyoming. And they didn't play well at Wyoming, but that's normal for teams from other parts of the country that aren't at 7,220 feet above sea level. It's kind of hard up there to breathe. But they played excellent at Toledo, and Toledo's a very good team. Toledo won their league last year. Toledo is really well coached. So this is an experienced, smart team. Mike Davis has played in the national championship game. I actually competed against him when I was at Pitt and he was at Indiana in the NCAA tournament one year in the second round in '03. The previous year when he was at Indiana, we were in the same region in Lexington and would have met if we hadn't have lost to Kent State in overtime. And they went on to beat Duke in their game and then beat Kent State to get to the Final Four and ultimately the championship game. And so he really knows what he's doing. Did a great job at UAB, at Texas Southern. Last year, they were completely a zone team for the entire season. The first two games they played man-to-man. And, so they could show up and play zone or man. We don't really know. Based on what they've done so far this year, it's been man, but we'll definitely be prepared to see their zone as well.
Theo, if you've got a follow-up, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Prince Adura coming over. I mean, how can you prepare for him, having coached him here at Starkville?
Well, Prince plays hard. He had some injuries here early in the season before they started, but I think he's come off those fine. And, he's a good low post player and is going to play real hard for him.
Go back to Paul Jones. Paul, go ahead.
Coach, after the first two games, I know it's still early in the season, but is there something you've been pleased with your team? And is there something that you're looking at that you want to see an improvement of coming up this week?
If we can keep holding our opponents to 30% from the field and out-rebounding them by an average of 15 per game and shoot 50% from the field ourselves, I'll be really happy. So if we can maintain the level of play we've shown in the first two games, I'd be ecstatic. Especially the 13 for 23 from three against Montana. Shooting the ball at that level was tremendous. I was really pleased with that and, excited about it. The thing we got to get better at, as you look at it, is just our foul shooting. As a whole, like Garrison should never miss a foul shot. He's such a good shooter. So he's worked hard on it this week. I mean, he made 99 in a row this summer. I watched it personally. Anytime you can make 99 in a row, you should be shooting a high percentage.
Stephon, go ahead.
Kind of following up on that, I mean, having a couple games under your belt with, a team that has a bunch of new players, I mean, how much has it helped to kind of just have a couple games worth of film that you can look back on and look at specifics of what you guys need to fix or keep doing?
It's been good for our team. We watched film as a group yesterday. We watched 17 minutes of edits from our game against Montana. When we played in the in the scrimmage games, we watched the entire games because we had more time and not another game coming right away. So we were able to, we watched the TCU game for 3 hours over a 2-day period, which really helps. Because when you see yourself on film as a player and we can really break down our execution and what we're trying to do offensively and defensively, it really helps them grasp and understand better, what we're trying to accomplish. So no question, it helps to learn from each experience. And we've just got to keep growing and improving. And, when Rocket does get added lineup, which we're hoping is tomorrow, and then we add Tolu, hopefully here in the next 3 weeks, that's going to, change rotations, but it's also going to increase our ability to play even harder. I think the one greatest blessing this team enjoys in my mind right now is our depth. We have really good depth that I feel comfortable with that we can end up playing, 10, 11 guys.
Tanner, go ahead.
Coach, to kind of shift gears for just a second, I got the chance to go back and watch a little bit of NC State last year, and Shaquille Moore really was impressive in that game. He almost leads the team in points against Montana. Is that a game where he kind of pulled, I guess, is that when he got on your radar, or was he on it before then?
Which game are you speaking of from before?
Last season against NC State.
I didn't see that game. We watched film of him at the end of the year, and we had recruited him. So he was on our radar coming out of high school. But then we recruited him, obviously, really hard when we learned that he was going to leave and put his name in the portal last year, because we had a familiarity with him, and also, how good he was. And my assistant, Corey McRae, had a relationship with one of his AAU coaches and made the call, and so that's how we got involved.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
John Sokoloff.
Kind of going off that, Ben. I mean, if Rocket can't go, what have you seen kind of from Shaquille Moore in the first 2 games that gives you confidence that, him and the rest of that backcourt will be able to kind of carry the load until Rocket is able to come back?
I think, John, he's really shooting the ball well. We've worked really hard to improve on his already good shooting when he arrived here. He shot 35% last year as a freshman at NC State from 3. And he's a great kid. I mean, he's a hard worker. His incredible athlete. He had one play in the second half. I don't know if you guys remember, it was early in the second half. Someone kind of threw a lob that was not really right to him, and he had to hang in the air and kind of grab it and stick it in. He has a 43-inch vertical. He's pound per pound with Iverson, probably, as strong as anybody on the team. He has huge hands. What we want him to grow and get better at is just to keep growing defensively, because we want him to be, and I think he's doing a good job defensively, but staying in front of the ball, not getting beat on penetration. A lot of times he's matched up on their point guard, and then really doing a good job at, getting on the glass and starting to break himself by getting defensive rebounds. I thought he made some great passes, both the lob passes that for dunks against Montana. The first basket of the game by us for Cameron Matthews and then DJ Jeffries in the second half were from Shaq and were really good passes. He kind of put perfect loft on them. I mean, it kind of looks easy when you're watching them do it, but believe me, it's not that easy. And we see it in practice when we're working on different, sets where there's lobs, that are available. And a lot of times we don't make great passes. So, he's a good passer.
Go to Andy, then Stefan to wrap it up. Andy.
Hey, Ben, when you do have Rocket back, whenever that might be, how do you kind of go about mixing up the rotations? Because obviously, you obviously want to keep Shaquille on the floor a lot. You got Cam Carter playing pretty well. How do you kind of go about those rotations?
Well, we'll just wait and see. It's kind of hard to play the three of those 4 guys together because of their lack of size. But we could even do that at times. We'll see. I mean, we have a really good problem, as I mentioned earlier. We've got good depth. And the best teams I've coached during my career are teams that have really good depth, where they have really good competition, that push each other every day in practice. And that's what we've been having, and that's, really helpful for us as we get healthy and get back. Like adding Rocket back to the practices now has been good for our team because he really competes. He had a great practice yesterday. The second team beat the first team, and he was working with the second team. And so I was obviously very disappointed in the last few minutes of practice when his shoe gave out. We have it on film, and I was really thankful to hear that he was feeling better when he got up. And actually, when I leave this meeting right here that we're having, I'm going to walk right into the training room, which I expect him to be in, to kind of see how he's doing.
Ben, before I want to ask about Cam Carter, but I also wanted to mention that my Bulls beat down on your Lakers last night, man. That was an impressive performance from DeRozan and Levine and the gang.
Well, you watch the three-point shooting. I looked at the stats last night in that, and all the guys that have DeRozan's from L.A., played at SC. Zach LaVine, I signed and recruited to UCLA. And then Ball was from L.A., and the Lakers drafted him first. So all of them had, extra motivation to want to whoop up on the Lakers. And all 3 of them did collectively, especially Ball. He was a kid that had this sidewinding missile from this side of his head coming out of college and didn't want to change it. Well, he's changed it. He was 7 for 10 from 3 last night. So he was most impressive to me when I looked at those stats. And the Lakers obviously aren't at full strength without LeBron, but, they've got a lot of work to do.
Right, yeah, no, Lonzo's looking real smooth with it. I want to ask about Cam Carter. I know that he kind of went out on the court after that Montana game, was putting up some shots after the game. I mean, what's it like to see a young player doing something like that?
Well, I saw his mom up in the upstairs after the game, and we were visiting. I said, "What's he doing down there? You guys are all the way up here from Louisiana. Can't get your son to spend a few minutes with you?" So hopefully he didn't shoot too much longer and got a chance, because he had a brother, an aunt, an uncle, his mom. He had like 5 or 6 family members there, and I hope that he was able to make it up and spend some time with them. But he's got a great work ethic. You talk about Carter. He's a gym rat, my favorite kind of person. Guy who loves to be in the gym. And we have a lot of them. And like Tolu, we've got to yell at to get out of the gym so he doesn't overstress the stress fracture in his foot. But he's famous for spending 5 or 6 hours a day in a gym. Iverson, all these kids. I mean, our guys are gym rats, and that's why they continue to grow and improve. So that's exciting.
Ben, don't worry. LeBron Woj broke it this morning that I think he's going to be back against the Celtics. That's where we're on the even playing field. If it involves beating the Celtics, I need it. I need it. So perfect timing.
Hey, I'm with you. Beat the Celtics. In fact, I always tell Bailey Howell, and I almost feel bad. I feel like I'm hurting his feelings. I grew up hating you, Bailey, because you were a Celtic. And I was a Laker fan. I remember that crew cut head in those, black high top Chuck Taylors that they all wore when he was a player. He is such a nice man. I mean, it's just so incredible to spend time with Bailey Howell. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to do that, but I mean, I had some friends of mine that came in, were here for, in town. I forget what football game it was. It was Tennessee. It was Kentucky. It was the great Kentucky win. And one of my teammates, Dave Johnson, came to practice and spent about 2 hours sitting there with Bailey. And he was just so fired up, listening to all the stories of the Celtics and of the history of college basketball. I mean, if you ever get a chance, all of you should spend an hour just sitting there eating and talking to Bailey Howell. What a great guy.